to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today's episode is going to be a little bit of a mishmash about a news piece that's been coming out, this case.
Yeah.
You know, because...
I mean, okay, so what we're talking about is, if you guys have followed along, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, I don't know, but we're talking about the Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie case.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about that. Obviously, we're not like
we're not a credible news source.
We're not a crime podcast.
And we're not a crime podcast, and we're not trying to get in on that yet.
No, we're not trying to get in on that at all. We don't want to give anybody the impression that we're trying to cash in on this freaking horrible tragedy.
Yeah, it's too many people are doing that, so.
But I have been following the case really closely for the last month or so, and I've been very interested in...
Erica's been obsessed.
Checking on Twitter for updates pretty much
watching live streams,
several times every day.
Listening to podcasts
and... But I recently saw a tweet from somebody not relating it, but comparing it to a British case that happened in the 60s.
70s.
Yeah. That Dominic has mentioned to me before, and I think
we've talked about it.
I don't know if we've talked about it in the podcast, but I think when you mentioned it to me, you were a little bit surprised that I had never heard of it, because I guess it was big news in Britain.
Yeah, it was. Well, yeah. I mean, it still kind of is. It's kind of like a byword now.
And it's the Lord
Lucan case. Yeah, the disappearance of Lord Lucan.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about the whole, the whole circumstances surrounding it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about
And it was worldwide, I thought,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it was probably mentioned over here at some point, because...
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't born then, so...
He was Well, I know, yeah, but I mean, still...
Well, and...
Because he was never found.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get into that in just a little bit, but...
Yeah.
So, just to back up, for anybody who has not been following along, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie...
Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie
were a couple that apparently were just sort of starting out as influencers / travel vloggers.
Yeah. Bloggers, they call them, yeah.
Bloggers, yeah.
A
young couple, like,
and stuff.
He's 23, I think, and she's 22. They only had one video on YouTube.
Just one.
But she particularly was really documenting their cross-country trip in this van that she had saved up for. They'd quit their jobs.
Yeah. Like
so many YouTubers do and have, and YouTubers that we follow. And I think that that's part of the reason why I got interested in this case, because we follow so many travel vloggers.
Yeah, we follow a lot. And we talk to a lot of them too, so.
Yeah. And so
this captured Erica's interest as well.
Yeah, because it's something I've considered, it's something I would be interested in probably doing.
Yeah.
At some point. I haven't traveled that much of the United States.
Quitting, selling everything, going on the road.
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't traveled that much of the United States realistically, and I'd like to see a lot more of it. So, that kind of lifestyle piques my interest. Just traveling around and documenting it for ourselves and, for anybody else that might be interested. And that's what these two kids, I'm going to call them kids because he's 23 and she was 22. And that's what they were doing. They were having a little adventure. Apparently,
but things turned sour.
Well, apparently they'd been dating since... high school. There's a lot of details in this case.
Yeah, and it's a little bit convoluted, so we'll just keep it to the basics.
Yeah. Apparently they've been dating since high school. So, they're in their early 20s. I guess they were engaged to be married. They set out... They're from New York. They had at some point moved to Florida. So they left from Florida to, go on this adventure, and they were stopping at all the national parks along the way. Taking photos, just hiking and camping and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know when they started, sometime during the summer, I think. I want to say June. I'm not positive. But in September 1st, he came home without her. It was her van that they...
It was just him that came home,
He came home in her van without her.
I know.
And he and his parents hired a lawyer, and they wouldn't talk to anybody about anything. Her parents couldn't get a hold of... Well, they couldn't get a hold of either one of them. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know if either one of them were okay because his parents wouldn't answer their calls.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what's happened to Gabby and Brian. Are they okay? They were worried about him too because this is their future.
And there was something about a weird text as well.
This is their future son-in-law. Well, her mother got a text from Gabby on the 27th of August, I think it was.
Yeah.
Asking her to contact Stan, who is apparently Gabby's grandfather, because she's been getting a bunch of missed voicemails and texts from him.
Yeah.
Contact him and see if he's okay. See if you can help him, whatever he needs. And the mother thought it was weird because, who calls their grandfather by his name? Usually they say grandpa or granddad or whatever they call him, So the mom thought that was kind of weird. She hadn't talked to her. She was talking to her regularly, the mom and the dad. They're divorced. Yeah. So they were talking to her separately. Just all throughout the trip, FaceTime, calls, texts, whatever. Just keeping up to date, making sure, she's a young girl and she was with her boyfriend, but still, it's like,
still just keeping in touch.
Yeah. And so the mom thought that was kind of weird. And then on August 30th, she received another text that said, "No phone service here at Yosemite." Well, Yosemite Park is a national park, but it was not on their itinerary.
Oh,
I don't know if they had told... Maybe if she had told her parents, these are all the stops we're going to make, these are where we're planning on going or whatever. But somehow they knew that was not a stop that they weren't planning to go to Yosemite. So the mom was like, okay, this is not her. Like, something is up, Yeah. But her parents live in New York. His parents now live in Florida and have for however long. So they had no idea that he had come home. Her dad goes down to Florida. Gabby's dad goes down to Florida, I guess just to check, and goes to their house. Where's my kid? Where are our kids? How come you're not replying to my texts or my calls or whatever? And I don't know if they wouldn't talk to him or what, but the cops get called. So he's got to leave. Yeah. And then the next day, I don't know if he went back to New York or whatever, but the next day on September 11th, Gabby's mom filed a missing persons report because it was just like, we haven't talked to our kid in a couple of weeks now. We don't know where she is or if she's okay or whatever. I don't know if I guess the parents told their parents that Brian was home. I don't know how they found out that Brian had come home.
It's a bit weird.
He came home with the van. Maybe they saw the van. I guess the van would have been there in the driveway when the dad showed up. So maybe that's why the fight broke out or whatever. Yeah.
What's going on? Where is she?
Yeah. So I mean, the case has been really just strange from the beginning, and somehow it caught fire online, and basically I'm going to refer to it as a story that went viral, basically. Yeah. It went viral. It went worldwide. And you had all these people going, well, why, this is just because she's a pretty little white blonde girl that anybody's paying attention to this. Like, people go missing every day, and which is unfortunately true, horrifically, But I just feel like YouTube and Instagram and all the people who are into all of those sorts of things are very into those things. And she was a budding influencer.
Yeah, she was getting out there.
And they had a TikTok, they were doing all the things, that influencers do. So I just think that the story somebody caught wind of it and it spread like wildfire across the internet. And it just became like a viral story, like so many of these little videos and anything else that get passed around that you get every single day, you know, of dogs doing whatever, or a grandpa falling into the pool or whatever, you know. This was a story like that. It just happened to be like a murder mystery kind of story.
Yeah.
So it went kind of worldwide. I mean, I've seen people all over Britain and Australia and Ireland and, you know,
English-speaking Twitter.
English-speaking Twitter, yeah.
The English-speaking internet. But even some...
Yeah, know. Yeah, it's worldwide. It's not just English-speaking, but particularly English-speaking because, you know, they're English-speaking. You know, he came home. He apparently was home for a few days, and the parents decided, let's go on a family camping trip.
Yeah.
They went.
I mean, I haven't really been following it as much as you have.
The parents.
So I've only gotten bits of this, and it's just kind of like, it just seems weird to me.
Yeah, there's just so many weird. Odd. There's so many weird aspects to the case. The parents and him go on a camping trip. His sister and her family come and meet them out at the campsite, and they're like, you know, it's Labor Day weekend, I think, and they're having s'mores and, you know, going swimming and stuff like nothing. And meanwhile, it's like, has anybody asked him, oh, by the way, where's your fiance? You know, I don't know. Her family says that they were not aware of any sort of like domestic violence within Brian and Gabby's relationship.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a little bit like they've been going out since high school. Like, she never mentioned anything. Like, yeah. I don't know. I mean, not putting any blame on the family for not knowing, but they did get pulled over while they were still traveling. I think it was August 12th. They got pulled over by the police because a witness had called 911 after having seen him slapping her on the street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Slapped her a couple times on the sidewalk, and then they got in the van and left, and the witness called... Actually, I think there were a couple different witnesses who called the cops. And so the cops... And, you know, I guess they got the license plate or whatever, and the cops pulled them over. Yeah, and she was sobbing, and it's all on body cam footage. So the footage has been released. Everybody has seen that footage. And he's got scratches on his face and his arms where, you know, that makes it... She's got a scratch on her face, and I think a bruise or scratches.
They fought each other.
Yeah, they had been fighting. They had been physically fighting. Yeah. There were signs.
It wasn't like she was getting beaten up by him.
There were obvious signs. Well, she said she hit him. I mean, that was very much like... People are saying that's very typical of a battered woman to try to take the blame upon herself. And she's crying hysterically the whole time she's talking to the cops, whereas he seems like cool and collected, and he's laughing with the cops. And there's a point in the body cam footage where they fist bump, and the cops are putting all the blame on her, basically. Oh, she's this hysterical woman, and he was just trying to calm her down and telling her that they needed to take a breather and whatever. And the cops are like, yeah, my wife gets hysterical sometimes too. And, you know, they were like relating to each other, and it was all very... Buddy. Yeah. Buddy. It was all very kind of just gross, really, if you watch the videos. But anyway, they separate them. She in the van, and they put him up in a hotel somewhere. And they don't arrest either one of them, but she is going to have to come back to court. She's going to have a court date. And he's just like kind of like he's not really particularly that worried that she's gotten in trouble here. You know, he's more concerned with, oh, well, if she goes off in the van, I don't have a phone and I don't have any way to, I'll just be out of luck. You know, he's very much like thinking about himself. Yeah. And there's a point in the second officer's body cam footage where the two officers are talking, and they're like, you know, you have these cases where you're called and there's these fights, and you have to make a judgment call and let them, you know, stay together or separate them or whatever. And then it'll end up where she's been killed a few days later. Oh, yeah. You know, and we don't, but I don't think this is going to be that kind of case. They seem like they're in love. Yeah. They seem like they're in love. They both love each other. They don't want to press charges on each other. And yeah, I think it's a mental health situation. They're just at like a mental breaking point because they've been spending too much time together in this van. So, they separate them, but I think there's a little bit of question, like, did they stay separated?
Did they? Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
There's another weird point where apparently he flew back home a few days after that situation to help his dad clear out a storage unit so that he and Gabby could have more money to keep traveling and they wouldn't have to be paying on a storage unit, where you kind of think, okay, he's paid for a round trip ticket. He spent a week in Florida. She's in a hotel for a week. Like, those are expenses, too.
It's just very strange, the whole thing.
It's very, very weird.
She was found dead, though.
She was found dead. So he came back on the 1st without her. The parents reported him missing on the 17th, later saying that the last time they had actually seen him was the 13th when he went hiking in a nearby reserve. And everybody's like, what, you gave him a head start to get away? Like, why did you wait so many days to report him missing, So there's been all these searches for him. Yeah,
a lot of conspiracy theories are turning up,
Yeah, on the day I think that he went missing, a couple days later, I think it was the 19th, they found her body in the Grand Teton National Park. I'm not sure if I've gotten that right. In Wyoming. They found her body. A lot of the stuff that they were able to find. She'd been strangled. A lot of witnesses that came forward having seen them fighting. Some girl came forward having seen them fighting in a Mexican restaurant on her Instagram. Another girl came forward that she had picked him up as a hitchhiker on TikTok. A lot of the details in the case came from the internet. Yeah. Came from people following the case, and they were like, oh, I saw this. Another couple of travel YouTubers are the ones who spotted her van in their own vlog that they were editing. They were like, this looks like her van. They turned that to the FBI. That's how they found her body. They went to the location where the van had been parked in those YouTubers' video and searched that area. And lo and behold, she was something like, I don't know,
in a shallow grave or something.
Yeah. They have not released any of those kind of details yet about how her body was found. But I think it was found something like I think they said like a 6-minute walk away from where the van was. Yeah.
She'd been strangled.
Yeah, they just released
But the whole thing is the FBI who have taken control of the case. Mm-hmm. They're seeking Brian Laundrie on a fraud charge of using her bank card or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's all they've got at the moment.
They're not declaring him as he's a person of interest, and we're seeking him only for that fraud thing, nothing to do with Gabby's murder. And it's kind of like, well, that's a bit odd. I mean, he's a person. You can, issued or, but I guess because this is something they can.
Everybody thinks they want to have him. They want to have it airtight before they say we're
they
want to.
They want to have his DNA locked in and everything. Yeah.
Which everybody's saying, oh well, strangulation. It's going to be difficult. Like, how can they prove just because his DNA's on her? Because
but if there's no third party DNA, then
if they don't find anybody else's DNA, it's like you can't strangle yourself to death. Yeah. So, but I think they just want to have that all 100% covered before they go, we're going after him for murder, Yeah. He definitely used her bank card, her credit card after she was already dead. He used it apparently a couple times on his way driving home from Wyoming. So yeah, they've got him on that. They're searching for him on that. There's been sightings up one side of the US and down the other side.
And it's only been it's been a month.
It's been a month, yeah. He's been missing for about a month, but yeah, then I saw this tweet that was like, oh, this Brian Laundrie missing case, because everybody's everybody who's following the case online is starting to get really frustrated because they haven't found him yet.
They haven't found Brian Laundrie yet, and it's all...
And getting a little bit scared, like, you know, is there a chance that we're never going to find him? Because it's like, if he had gone and committed suicide, let's say, because of the guilt from what he did, surely, you know, like, surely they would have found a body.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily, I guess, if you go out and do it in a swamp in
this is
Florida,
yeah.
and an alligator eats you or something. I mean, maybe it would be difficult to find then. I don't know. But but I saw somebody online compare it to the missing Lord Lucan case from Britain, and they linked to this article from the Guardian. But I just remember years ago you mentioning Lord Lucan to me.
Well, I think it was probably
and that was a weird case
around
too.
The time Lady Lucan, who was his wife, she committed suicide in 2017 apparently.
Oh, really?
She was like 80 or something.
Oh God, what?
Yeah, this is where things get a bit...
That's another really weird case, isn't it?
It's a weird case, yeah. Richard John Bingham, he was the 7th Earl of Lucan. Mm-hmm. He was one of these, he was the, you know, nobility, and aristocrat, and he was suave, and, he had the Kitchener mustache.
He's related to the royal family.
He went to Eton College, and he worked at a London-based bank. He was born in the 30s, and so he married, he was known for, like, his suave personality, and he was actually considered for the role of James Bond.
What?
At one point. I think either before Sean Connery or when they were,
So he was an actor?
No, it was just because he was around. He drives an Aston Martin. Yeah, he's your guy,
Oh, yeah. God, how weird.
But, he's not an actor, so he didn't get cast,
Yeah.
He basically gave up his merchant bank position to become a professional gambler.
Okay.
And, and he was nicknamed Lucky Lucan and all that, but his losses exceeded his earnings,
Oh, God, yeah.
So he was very bad at that. He married, in 1963, married Veronica Duncan, and he had 3 children with her. And then the next year, in 1964, he ascended to the earldom on the death of his father. But in 1972, his marriage collapsed, and he moved out of the family home at 46 Lower Belgrave Street in London. And he lost a custody battle, and he accrued gambling debts, and his personal finances were in ruin, and he was kind of like very bitter about, with his ex-wife about custody of the children and everything.
Yeah.
She'd hired a nanny, Sandra Rivet.
Yeah.
And then on 7th of November 1974, she went down to make a cup of tea or something for the thing, and she was bludgeoned to death in the basement.
The nanny.
With a lead pipe.
Okay, yeah.
Wrapped in bandage.
Oh, what?
Boom, I guess so it wouldn't make a sound or whatever, no, but she was bludgeoned to death and put in a canvas bag.
Okay.
And then, this is where it gets weird, because the Lady Lucan came looking for her, and she was apparently at the top of the stairs of the basement going, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
And she recognized, apparently recognized her husband's voice, because apparently she must have struggled or something.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, where are you? What's happening?" And then he beat her up.
Okay.
He tried to attack her.
Yeah.
And there's more details, but she managed to escape. The wife identified him as the attacker.
Yeah.
And she managed, apparently they went upstairs or something, and when he went to the bathroom, she managed to escape to a pub and raise the alarm, but by the time the cops and everything had
he beat her up and then went into the bathroom.
So yeah, it's a very, you'd have to look on like Wikipedia and stuff for like the full transcript of what happened and everything. But he tried to kill her, and
maybe thought she was or something.
Yes, something like that. And she went upstairs or something with him, and he went to the bathroom. He asked her apparently, have you got any barbiturates?
Yeah.
And she says, they're in the bathroom or something. And then she managed to, like, escape out the window and go to a nearby pub and say, he's attacked me and all that, but he'd gone.
Yeah.
He apparently he drove his car. He drove to a friend's house in Sussex in a borrowed Ford Corsair, which is later found abandoned in New Haven. And friends received letters while he was there. Friends received letters from him.
Oh, yeah.
He'd, like, posted letters to people.
Mm-hmm.
And he claims to have interrupted a fight during a traumatic night of unbelievable coincidence. You know?
Yeah.
And says, the circumstantial evidence against me is strong. And then, he just disappeared. Police, the police mount a search for him, but they can't find him.
Yeah.
They couldn't find him, and, the police said, yeah, the Eton Mafia was in play. Because every time we tried to talk to his friends, they didn't say anything. And, it was very much a case of the old school tie coming out. It was like, we're not telling you where he is, or if he's even still alive,
Yeah. But they released the letters that they received to the authorities, obviously.
Yeah, they got. I guess they got a warrant and stuff and seized the letters and stuff. Yeah, one he said to Bill Shand Kidd, he said, the most ghastly circumstances arose tonight, which I briefly described to my mother. When I interrupted the fight at Lower Belgrave Street and the man left Veronica, that's his wife, accused me of having hired him. And when the man left, Veronica accused me of having hired him. I took her upstairs and sent Frances up to bed and tried to clean her up. She lay doggo, meaning low, for a bit, and when I was in the bathroom, she left the house. The circumstantial evidence against me is strong in that V will say it was all my doing. I will also lie doggo for a bit, but I am only concerned for the children. If you can manage it, I want them to live with you. And then he goes on about trustees will take care of the school fees. V has demonstrated her hatred for me in the past and would do anything to see me accused. For George and Francis to go through life knowing that their father had stood in the dock for attempted murder would be too much. When they are old enough to understand, explain to them the dream of paranoia and look after them. Yours ever, John. And he kind of tried to wind up his affairs.
Yeah.
With his gambling, it's like a sale coming up and all this, and he just disappeared. They found the car and everything, and there was apparently a lead pipe in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Which was sawn off with a piece of stamp, but they couldn't conclusively prove that it come from the same lead pipe. Because there was no DNA in the car, except for Lady Lucan's,
Yeah.
And there was no blood either. So it was kind of like, it was likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are like, where did he go? And it became like a huge thing because it's like, he was declared dead in chambers in 1992, which means in private.
Yeah. Why?
Because they couldn't find him.
Yeah.
And, the inquest basically named him as the killer and, as the killer of Santa Rivera. And the wife said, he was the one that did it, and she's maintained all these years. His kids, however, have grown up going, I'm not sure he was responsible for it, but they've never really elaborated,
Yeah. Maybe. I wonder, it would be interesting to find out if they, you couldn't find out, obviously, but if they somehow were in touch with him.
That's what the people have theorized over the years. He scuttled his boat and tied himself and dropped himself into the English Channel, and he died that way. There was people who said, he killed himself and asked someone to feed his remains to the lions in Kent Zoo. There's several wild theories, but then there's also wild theories and sightings of him, up across the world.
Oh, yeah.
He's in Goa, India. He's in New Zealand. He's in South Africa. And his wife was like, he's one of those freaking Englishmen that does not want to live abroad. So there's no way he could cope.
Yeah.
He killed himself. That's the end of it, and
Yeah.
And his son has said, yeah, he's probably been dead since around that time.
But what was
they just never found his body or his remains or anything.
What did they determine was the motive for him killing the maid, though?
Yeah, that's something. The investigation goes on. They never really determined a motive for him. I think they thought he was trying to get his wife.
Yeah. He
was trying to kill his wife because he was, mad at her about the kids and she wouldn't give custody or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he thought that the maid was his wife in the dark.
He and his wife were going to get a divorce?
They were already divorced, I think.
Oh, so they didn't live together?
It was a custody battle. Yeah, he lived somewhere close by.
Oh.
And there was some kind of because everybody says the inquest was one-sided. It didn't really show what, his side of things.
Yeah.
There was something about, there was a man. And I interrupted this fight, and there was blood everywhere. And I tried to calm her down, and she's accusing me of hiring this guy,
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, yeah, if he'd hired...
But she doesn't say there was anybody else.
Yeah, she says no, there wasn't. She said it was just him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's dead now, but yeah, it's just one of those things where he just... The disappearance of him is like, where did he go, Mm-hmm. Everybody's just... And he was declared legally dead in 1999.
The kids were in the house when he did this?
Yeah, the kids were in the house when he did this, as far as I know. I just skimmed the main events of the night,
Mm-hmm.
But it's an interesting case. I think they've made a couple of movies about it. It took years for them to declare him dead, and people are like, why did they take it so long? Because if they declared him dead, the son, they would have had to pay death duties, and they couldn't afford to pay the son's schooling and all that, and the kid's schooling,
I just don't... I don't know. Declaring someone dead when...
he's been declared dead now, and the death certificate has been issued. That was in 2016, so, even if he is still alive somewhere, because people are like, he had help, he got out of the country, he's probably living in the US somewhere, under an assumed name.
Yeah.
But there's so many people. There was this Barry from St. Helens, an ex-Scotland Yard detective, went out to Goa, India, and was like, that's Lord Lucan, that's him.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, it's Barry from St. Helens. They wrote a book about it. So,
this is Dog the Bounty Hunter searching for Brian Laundrie.
And last year there was a reported sighting of him in New Zealand.
Oh, really?
It's still going on.
But how old would he be now?
People are like, 1934, he'd be almost...
Yeah, almost 90. Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. But, people like that, they do have money and they have the means to disappear, So it's a little bit different with this Brian Laundrie. His parents have a 10,000 square foot house. So, they've got a bit of money. That's a sizable house,
My bet is he's in the house. They're just hiding him in the house somewhere.
The FBI have searched, I think. They went in and they retrieved things.
They could have...
Yeah, he could have just been gone at that time. Yeah.
And with all the media... the media would have noticed, and, but it's just when the media are distracted...
Yeah.
He could have snuck in, wearing a false disguise or whatever, and just around the back or whatever.
Or in the back, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy case, and someone
would have to be in their house all the time, to watching them.
Yeah, it's annoying though. People going missing.
I was looking up a list of fugitives. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
And they're still unaccounted. Lord Lucan, it was just kind of like, that was a crazy thing.
Yeah, because he was somebody with a name and a title,
and it's usually it's like They usually want to be in the.
It sounds like he was probably planning to disappear anyway because of the gambling debts.
Probably. He'd probably.
So he was like, I might as well just kill my wife in the process, but oops, I accidentally killed the maid.
That's what I think was happening. Yeah, because people have theorized over the years, was he having an affair with the maid or, something like that? But I don't think he was.
Yeah, why would he kill her? he would have just run off with her.
She went down to the basement to make a cup of tea, and he whacked her over the head and tried to put her in a canvas bag. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'd have to look into it more.
He was trying to make it look like something else.
Either he was trying to kill her and frame his wife, or he was just trying to kill his wife and accidentally killed her.
Yeah,
and he tried to kill the wife too.
Yeah. Ugh, all this talk just makes you feel sick, doesn't it? It's just I mean, it's one thing to watch, I don't know, a scary movie or a Lifetime movie or something about made up dramas like this. Yeah, but when you're talking about actual things that happen in real life people, it's just sickening. I mean, there's no other kind of way to describe it. It just makes you feel really, really sick. And anyway.
Yep.
We just wanted to talk about that because, it's kind of consumed my life the last month or so. Well,
maybe Brian Laundrie found Lord Lucan and they're out there somewhere.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
Convicted in the court of public opinion.
Yeah. Oh, most certainly. I guess both of them. Everybody thought Lord Lucan was guilty also, obviously.
Oh, yeah. The media went out and named him as killers, even with as the killer, even with the threat of libel. They were just like, yeah, you know what? He did it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, life is stranger than fiction very often, it seems like.
Indeed so.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening.
Anyway, I feel weird saying I hope you enjoyed this episode because it's just it's
a strange but true.
Can you really enjoy it? Yeah. Let us know if you've been following the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito case at all, and also whether you had heard of the Lord Lucan case, because I hadn't, but apparently it was big news in its time also.
Yeah.
So
I mean, growing up I'd always heard that old byword for he's off with Lord Lucan.
Oh, yeah.
Like when someone hadn't turned up or someone was missing from something, it's just he's off with Lord Lucan. And it's become that byword.
It's kind of scary how easy it seems to be for people to go missing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's it's a little bit scary, but anyway, I don't know how to wrap this up. So thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.